So what does that sort of involve then? So what sort of rituals and...
The ones who invited me, because I had taken one on my own in Bolivia, La Paz, which lasted about 10 hours the same.
Mm.
Spent most of it in my room. Well, then when we went to the Island of the Sun in the Lake Titicaca for a weekend, it was a group of 15 people from Argentina, Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru. Some mestizos, some were real Indians. And they wanted to revive or commemorate the Inca way of worship, the totemic
Mm.
spirits like the moon, the sun,
Yeah.
water, earth, fire, wind, and we all did that in Quechua. And we went to the source. There's still a source of water on the island of the sun that is running, and they say it comes from under the Lake Titicaca from the mainland,
Mm.
unspoiled. So each of us was told to fill up a bottle and distribute that water wherever we went, either send it by post to friends, or you could dilute it, just one drop of that bottle with that precious water. If you take one drop and put it in another, say, bottle with tap water, we would purify it and make it into sacred water.
Mm.
And we were supposed to function as a chasqui, which chasqui was a sacred messenger from the Incas,
Mm.
who would run for miles and miles and miles just on coca leaves.
Mm.
And that's what I've done as well. I've
Yeah.
walked from the south, from the island of the sun, to the north and down again, which is about 37 kilometers over hilly terrain on 3,200 meters, if not more,
Mm.
altitude, just in coca leaves and nothing else, maybe just an apple. And I did it in one day. I started 7 o'clock in the morning and arrived 8 p.m. on foot doing that. And that was like, I felt like a machine. I felt like 18 years old. I was
Yeah.
not tired once.
Mm.
Yeah. So the coca is very, very, very precious medicine. They call it sacred medicine.
Mm.
Um, so from the moment I had gone through that ritual and I had that trance for 12 hours, I was reborn.
Mm.
I really felt I was dying, and I had people sitting around me, and they thought I was dying as well. They said afterwards that I was so congested and so pale. And they started crying, and they thought I was dying, and I felt dying, so I felt like a king
Mm.
on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And I reached out to them, and for each and every person around me, I just took their hand and put it on my forehead, and instantly I saw a vision,
Mm.
and I saw what their new name was going to be. I gave them each a new name,
Mm.
and the name corresponded later on, that I learned, with the profession they had.
Really?
So one I called a golden owl,
Mm.
and the day after he said, how did you know? I mean, he said, I'm an aviator, I'm a pilot.
Yeah.
And another one I called mineral, subaquatic mineral. He turned out to be a masseur
Yeah.
working in a spa environment with magnesium and
Yeah.
so on.
Yeah.
I was like, how did I know that? And that was all under the influence of the hallucinogenic.
Yeah, that's
So it just
amazing.
opened everything.
Yeah.
I think it opened up all of my chakras, and as I saw myself dying and being reborn at the same time,
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is it. This is the spiritual world. How can I ever go back to my atheist state?
Yeah.
There's something more than what we see,
Yeah.
and I still believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you practice a religion now, or do you just?
I don't see it as a religion. I see it
Yeah.
as a spirituality.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Mm.
As you can see, I got that. That's what I made in La Paz. Sorry, in Copacabana.
Yeah.
I had it printed in Peru, and this is sort of a syncretism between Catholic religion and the indigenous religion.
Yeah.
The Lake Titicaca behind him, you got the moon, and you got Mother Mary in his hat.
Yeah.
But not because they see her as Mother Mary, but she was introduced to the Indians in Copacabana, Bolivia, as Mother Earth.
Mm.
That's how they accepted her. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have accepted her.
Yeah.
So, yes, for instance, when I'm in South America and before you eat or before you drink, you make a few drops of your drink on the floor to make her participate as well and bless her. Or you say Hayalya, and you know, I when I see the sun, I greet the sun, I salute the sun. I do some meditation. Meditation has really I mean, the Buddhist tradition kind of meditation never worked for me. But the hallucinations with the hallucinogens have opened up my brain, and probably receptors or have sort of start working better. And I get to see things that look quite frightening. I see, for instance, the invasion of America invading Iran. I know it's going to happen. And
Before it happened?
Sorry?
Before it happened, you
Yeah, I saw that 4 years ago in that trance.
Yeah.
And it was very significant. I've also seen a genocide happening in Brazil. 3 months after the division, the federal police moved in a reservation of the Guarani Indians. And the Guarani said that they would not leave the reservation, which they carved it themselves, because for decades the government has failed to make a reservation demarcated.
Yeah.
So the people themselves have said enough is enough, and they demarcated themselves physically with pickets and all that. And the government was going to send in, I mean the federal government was going to send in federal police, to drive them out of the reservation at the peril of just having a bloodbath and onslaught. And the Guarani said, we don't care, we rather live on our, standing up than on our knees, and if we must die and there will be blood flowing, we'll die. And that's what I saw in my trance of Indians dying. It was all blood, and it was so yeah, I've seen loads of things.
It must be quite frightening though too.
Yeah. Well, I also speak in tongues, and it happens very often, and some of them seem to be the same, because Valerie, when it happens, she's been witnessing that when we lived in Arequipa in Peru, and she's seen me leading rituals and them getting in trance, and the participants not. Because that was the thing, was that with the 15 participants, and most of them were Indians, they were so surprised that a gringo would get in trance.
Yeah. And
they said, there's people here who've done these trances 3 or 4 times in the past years and never get in a trance. How come you get in a trance? And when I speak in tongues, some of them sound like Sino-Burmese, some sound more like Lakota, from Sioux language from North America. The thing is, I can register what I say, but I cannot explain it, and I cannot decipher it or translate it, and I cannot just say stop, this is enough. And just my mouth goes on. That's actually speaking in tongues. I've been looking it up on the net to find out about speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who said, he studied it, an American, and he said there is a difference between people saying they speak in tongues and they just talk some gibberish, and others where you feel there's a grammar structure, and that they're not repeating themselves. There's some things being said. Because when I speak, there's intonation, there's emotion, there's some sound like a raconteur coming and using my body to tell her something, but in his language. Never he will use English or so. And then it can break off all of a sudden, and then for half an hour I'm back in talking in English to her.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden something picks up again, and it's another entity coming down in me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know whether that is because of my frequenting mystics and all that, because I've been in Brazil in 2004 to see and lived for 3 months in a domain where John of God lives. He's a famous Brazilian healer, and people come from all around the world to go and get healed by him.
Yeah.
He also heals with entities visiting and using his body. He says, I'm not healing. He says, God is healing.
Yeah.
And I worked there with shamans, young shamans from the Fulnio tribe. I painted them. They're the ones, and those. And you can see some of the digital works I made of them in the church as well. And they were taking on the Americans who lost faith in that healer, or who didn't get healed by him. So they tried out their way of healing, because they're Brazilian Indians and they have a lifelong tradition of 400 or 500 years that they've been known as healers.
Mm.
In so much that the tribes wanted to stay with other tribes, wanted to stay with them to learn how to heal people.
Mm.
So I've been there very, very often, and I've been in touch with gurus in India. But I mean, has it sparked off something? Did it rub off on me unconsciously and sort of awaken something? I don't know. But the fact is, I'm doing it and
Yeah.
I'm doing these things.
Yeah. How often does that happen?
Well, in South America, it happens when we take substances. The cactus, the sacred cactus, or the ayahuasca vine. Ayahuasca is a healing plant. It assimilates very easily the DNA of the human DNA. That's what they've seen. And actually, with ayahuasca, there's therapy groups in Paraguay and Brazil where they heal people's addiction to cocaine and heroin.
Really?
Yeah, it's a healing plant. Shamans have been using it for thousands of years. But I also spent time with the Akas in Laos. I spent a month with them, and we did a trek because it was I was there basically also illegally because I didn't ask a permit from the government to go and see them. I got invited in the market by the people, hopped in their car, and we went all the way to their reservation. And then I trekked for 3 days, 7 hours a day through the forest, and we went from Aka village to Aka village, and they also have different clans.
Yeah.
And there I was offered opium, but I never took it. I was afraid to get addicted to it. I said, stay to the... I'm not interested in cocaine. I'm not interested in heroin. I'm interested in the sacred plants and what they can do for you. Healing. So at one point when I became in trance, I had, hints from people saying, you should be a healer, you should be a herbalist, you should be healing with plants, you must study the plants. And for me it was like, okay, what I'm going to be? What I'm going to continue? Am I a painter? Am I a shaman? Am I into shamanism?
Yeah.
Should I abandon one or the other?
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing.
So what do you see yourself as primarily then?
Well, I get to see myself as a storyteller. I'm basically a teacher. I'm a born teacher. I also teach English abroad.
Yeah.
And my friend, she's a teacher. She was a teacher, and she says, people think that teaching is easier. Anybody can do it. It's not true. You may go to the best university and get your degree, but if you haven't got the knack or the talent of teaching, which is in you, you are either born a teacher or you're not.
Yeah.
And teaching is performing. And as a shaman, you're basically a teacher as well. And I think my paintings sort of reflect, or maybe as a shaman, I should be a painter to tell my stories to people, because wherever I go, whether it's here or South America or Asia, I always have youngsters stopping me, and they want to know why I dress the way I dress. I mean, I go around in ponchos and feathers in my ears and so on. They call me quite flamboyant here in Stafford. So it draws the attention, and it's not that I like to draw the attention with the clothes. I just do my boy's dream. I've always wanted to be dressed like an Indian. I always wanted to be an Indian, and I feel perfect when I wear a poncho or when I wear a hat with feathers. In so much that in the beginning, when I did it in Bolivia, I had actually old Indian women who thought that I was a shaman. They would constantly call me Malku. You are a Malku, aren't you? And Malku is a spiritual healer. He could also be a sacred leader. That's the Quechua word, Malku. But they also call the Condor, for instance, Malku. Or a sacred site on which they built a church is a Malku. And that was so, I remember the first time I watched the demonstration of Aymara Indians in La Paz. They saw me just standing by among the people looking, and they would be like straight away, come, oh, you must come with us. Come and demonstrate and march, But yes, I think there's so much out there in South America that people don't get to know, despite the internet. I mean, I'm surprised with the internet. You would think that people can educate themselves, and they don't. The only thing they do is chatting.
Mm.
They don't look up things on the net
Yeah.
to find out. And when I was teaching in Ecuador, in my free time, I would sit in the square, and I had youngsters coming up to me and ask me all sorts of questions, ranging from politics, world, sexuality, anything that they couldn't get an answer for from their
Yeah.
parents or teachers.
Yeah.
And I had this 15-year-old who say, "How come you know so much?" You know, and I said, "Well, I read."
Yeah. Yeah.
And my Cambodian students this year, I taught at the university in Banyasastra in Phnom Penh. I taught academic writing and essays and all that, you know.
Yeah.
And I basically encouraged them to write a short story or just a thought in the moment. Said, just write something like a few one-liners or something that you see, observe in the morning. They couldn't do it.
Mm.
And I thought, what's happening here? Why is it so difficult? They all want to be writers. They all follow academic course, and yet they're not interested in reading. At one point, an 18-year-old asked me, "Teacher, why do they read so much in Europe?" And I was like, "Gosh, do you have to explain that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I told me, if you want to be a writer, read
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Go and buy a book, even magazine. I read anything.
Yeah.
If I'm at the doctor's, it may be the silliest magazine, but I'll
Yeah,
pick it up and I
yeah,
read.
yeah.
I'm always absorbing things, you know, and,
Yeah.
and I had to sort of, come on, just don't think that it'll come by itself. And I just noticed every time that I'm not only a storyteller, verbally, but also pictorially, I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
And when I exhibited in Cusco and the Amazon, I would have Indians coming to me or leaving a comment in my guest book and say, "Thank you so much for valuing our culture. On top of it, you're a foreigner. Our own people don't do that. Thank you very much for painting our culture."
Yeah.
And that is the biggest compliment I could ever get.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's amazing.
yeah.
So the exhibition that you've got on at the moment at St Chad's,
Yeah, that's like a retrospective.
yeah.
I brought lots of work here in the hope to find an exhibition somewhere, a venue, and it's quite difficult. People cannot really relate to my work. I've seen that I've exhibited in Wolverhampton in August for a 3-day sort of closing exhibition venue because it was run by a woman who had leased the place for 3 years, I believe, and it was coming to a close because she wanted to move on, and so I took the opportunity and showed my work that I made in the jungle in 2006, which was an outcome of my visions. I painted my visions, and people straight away go like, "Oh, this is Aboriginal," although they can't put me together with you're a white man. How do you paint like that? So it's not easy to. We've been to Liverpool, we've been to Wolverhampton, to Walsall, and it's all like, you know, it takes another year or it's booked for 2 years. It's not easy. So, but I've been fascinated by St Chad's ever since I was based here. Passed it by most of the time, even last year. It was never open, and I thought, oh gosh, I took pictures on the sides, back side, front side of the gargoyles, the little green men.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by them. I know they have them in France as well.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, I can see the pagan, the pre-Christian era in it.
Yeah.
Basically the shamanistic thing that has been quelled and stamped out in Europe by the Christians, right, when they conquered us in mission.
Yeah.
Missionaries and all that, it was all done away with. We burned them on the pyres and the Inquisition, what have you. And I thought, this is so close to what I see in South America